Super Speedway.
Welcome to episode 183 of the Super Speedway podcast, recorded Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. I'm your host, Eric Young, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, James Cush. James, we're into the season, man. The season started.
Officially official. The Daytona 500 edition of the Super Speedway podcast.
Yeah, the Daytona 500, the Daytona, 8 hours, 10 hours? How long?
The 16 hours of Daytona.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jeez,
whatever that was.
Freaking rain crap for Daytona is getting ridiculous.
It's
getting
been, is it two of the last three of the last 3 years.
I was going to figure it out because we went, it wasn't that long ago that we had the very first Daytona 500 that was postponed ever.
Yes.
And then now it's just every year it's rain now.
Well, they messed with the schedule and that's what they get.
Yeah, but it was back to normal this time, other than that we started, at late in the afternoon like idiots.
You opened up Pandora's box. Big Bill wouldn't have it.
Right?
Big Bill wouldn't have allowed the date changes back in the day.
Well, you know who wasn't bothered by the late finish to the Daytona 500?
I can bet there's one guy.
Michael McDowell, James.
Michael McDowell. Your Daytona 500 champion, Michael McDowell.
So I have a question here. What do you call this? Because, it's an upset, but it's not an upset, right? He's there in all of these things. None of us are surprised he won it, right?
Eric, every time you and I talk about super speedway races, what's the one name that you and I always bring up?
Exactly.
It comes up every time we talk about this thing. And it's like, it's an upset that he finally pulled it off. But if you're watching NASCAR on a consistent basis, you're not surprised that he was in position.
Right.
Eventually the dice were going to hit for the 34 car, and it happened.
Right. Yeah, it's the least surprising underdog story in maybe the history of the 500. Nobody's surprised, I don't think. But it's still, it's still a major accomplishment, and it's still an underdog story because he's not supposed to win.
No,
Front Row Motorsports is not supposed to win a race.
No, he's supposed to. Yeah, he's supposed to be there and get the top fives and get the top tens at the Daytona 500, and he's the nice story every year. We always are like, hey, Michael McDowell, look at that top 10.
Yeah,
nice,
exactly.
Nice top five, Michael.
Right.
But Eric, it's when you're playing Russian roulette with the Daytona 500, especially the way that it is now.
Yeah.
It was gonna fall to somebody eventually.
Yeah.
This happens at Daytona. It always has. There's always gonna be. It seems like every 10 years now, there's going to be that random name that's going to get plucked from the, But you think about it, we talked about it last week, Eric, the race that you went to, Trevor Bayne's 500, wasn't really surprising. If you watch Speed Weeks, he was fantastic. Michael Waltrip in 2001, not really surprising. He was really good at those races, and he had a really good piece that year. So... I guess he was probably the biggest upset. Derek Cope's definitely, we'll talk about him later. That's probably the biggest one,
right?
When you go way, way back. But man, that was. I don't know. Are you happy for Michael?
Oh,
obviously,
definitely. Michael's one of those guys that, aside from last year when he wrecked Bubba in the prelude to the All-Star race, everybody likes Michael McDowell. Maybe
he's one of the good ones.
Maybe now finally Michael McDowell's highlight will be winning the Daytona 500 and not wrecking at Texas during qualifying.
Well, exactly, and that's and that brings me to. So remember when I told you and Todd to watch Lost Speedways?
Okay. Yep.
On Dale Jr.'s show.
Mm-hmm.
I said, guys, the last episode there's a car. I said I've had my hands on that car, and it's pretty cool. I wanted to surprise you guys with what car that was. Michael McDowell's car.
Nice.
From the Texas crash, I was took a trip down to Michael Waltrip Racing when I was in Charlotte. This is many years ago, like 2008, somewhere around there. It was not too long after that car actually crashed.
Okay.
And before Junior got his hands on it and put it in the race car graveyard, I was able to see that car in person.
Nice.
And it is as mangled of a mess as you can possibly imagine.
That thing was rough.
But, oh man, it was so cool to see it in person though. But Michael McDowell became the poster child of the post Dale Earnhardt safety initiative in NASCAR. Like he's the shining example until Ryan Newman.
Yeah.
And to win this race 20 years after the passing of Dale Earnhardt is just symbolic. I feel like a little bit for him.
That is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, Michael McDowell, 36 years old. It was his 358th NASCAR Cup Series start. Gets his very first victory. His first victory and first top 10 finish of the year, of course, because that's the only race this year. Let's see. First victory and 7th top 10 finish in 20 races at the Daytona International Speedway. So
that last year Michael McDowell had his career high in top 10s, 4, but also his career high in average finishes. So seeing some improvements from Michael.
Well, and he's a good road racer too. He's got 7 races to deal with that too.
Yep, and he's starting up front on Sunday.
Yep.
For the road course race. He'll be starting second. So
one more quick stat.
Very cool.
Michael McDowell's 358 starts are the second most in series history by a driver before their first win, behind only Michael Waltrip with 463 starts before his first win in the 2001 Daytona 500.
Mike and Mike.
There you go.
Yes.
So let's talk about the Daytona 500, James. We got it started amid gray skies and not real high hopes of finishing it on Sunday, and we got 14 laps in before they decided to wreck half the field and completely change the makeup of this race. Knocked out, I think, 16 cars were involved in that wreck?
Yeah. Lap 14, big wreck. Let me see. I'm looking at the
we lost some contenders in this thing. We lost we lost Alex Bowman, we lost Eric Almirola, Matt DiBenedetto, Ryan Blaney. Blaney, man, he had the wreck missed.
He almost had it. Yeah, he did. He was good.
He wasn't in the wreck. Nobody ever hit him.
I know. And I thought, so I first saw the wreck and I thought Blaney had a little bit of damage. I thought, but I said, Blaney's going to be fine. Blaney's going to be fine. And then they showed the replay and I saw that front end just absolutely gobble up the grass. And I thought, oh man, that sucks. He's done. Truex.
Yep. Ryan
Truex
Newman.
And Jones. Yeah.
I did bury the lead though. Before that wreck, we lost another contender in Derek Cope.
Oh my God, dude. Do we need to get into it real quick?
Derek Cope made 3 laps in this race. I started the race delayed, and I got a message that popped up on my phone. It was, "Oh, thank God," from James. And I'm like, I wonder what that is. And then I started watching the race and saw the contact and realized what we were talking about.
I was just glad he didn't take anybody else with him.
Yeah. I mean,
he didn't belong out there. I'm sorry.
No, he didn't, and he proved it all week long. There just was no reason for him to be out there. So we need to do something, NASCAR. I know that there's charters and all this crap, but we got to do something to keep.
A buddy of mine kept asking me. I kept trying to explain why Derek Cope was in this race, and all he kept replying to me was, "How?"
Right.
And I tried to explain it some more, and he said, "How?" And I said, "Well, I can't really."
When Ty Dillon misses a race, fails to qualify for a race, that Derek Cope gets to start when Derek Cope hasn't had a start in the Cup Series in 11 years, I think they said?
It's been a minute. Yeah, it's been a minute.
Something is wrong with the system. I'm sorry.
Shouldn't be allowed out there. I'm sorry.
Nope.
I'm sorry.
Nope.
Put him in a truck. If he wants to run, he can run a truck or an ARCA car, but he shouldn't be in the 500.
NASCAR wants these drivers to have experience before they go race on the big tracks when they run in the smaller series. I think we need to have stricter rules as to who gets to get in a Cup car. I mean, we can go right down to, people like Quinn Hoff and stuff like that, get these guys that are just in it too early. I mean,
Morgan Shepherd is another famous example when he took out Logano at New Hampshire.
Now, don't get me wrong. The good guys, the big guys, the guys that are supposed to be experienced make stupid mistakes too. So I don't know, but there's some of these guys just aren't qualified to be in these
Well, it's not
cars.
like Jeff Gordon came out of retirement to run the Daytona 500.
That's true.
Come on.
Well, I mean, Tony Stewart almost came out of the retirement to run the Clash, but NASCAR didn't call him back. So we didn't talk about that on the podcast.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. Yeah. Well, he may come out of retirement to run the Indy 500 at some point. He's mentioned that too, and I haven't seen that happen.
As long as they get that 2-seater Indy car approved.
The wide version, yes.
Yep. Yeah, the side-by-side seater is the one.
He'd do good in the side-by-side. He could race that.
He could. So the big wreck kind of changes the outcome of the race, and we get rain immediately afterwards, and a nice long 6 to 8 hour delay while we tried to dry the track multiple times. And from what I heard, and this is through Jeff Gluck's podcast, The Teardown. NASCAR was ready. They were making the call to postpone the race till Monday, but they were showing, I think the clash on TV or something was going along on TV, and they're like, well, let's hold it out a little bit longer, see what happens. And they started to make some progress, and the rain held off. And
yep. Well, Clint Boyer said that during the broadcast that they filmed it that they were going to be running tomorrow, and they gave the time.
Yep.
So
great job by NASCAR, great job at the Air Titans and all that, including the driver who wiped out with the Air Titan.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Wow. It scared me.
God, I can't even imagine. You just, so like if you take a protractor and draw the banking, what is it, 31 degrees, I think, Daytona?
Yeah.
You draw that banking on a piece of paper and you look at that, it's like, yeah, it's steep, but it doesn't look that steep.
Stand in the grass and look up on the track.
Yeah, I've driven around the apron of that thing, and it is like looking at a wall straight up. Yep. And I think we've proven with jet dryers and Air Titans sliding down the banking at Daytona.
We've seen it. We've seen it a couple of times now.
These are some steep banking. So
yeah, that top lane for those Air Titans is. I think NASCAR's got to do a little bit of something. I don't know what to help out there.
So I mean, there's probably not a whole lot to discuss here, James. But I mean.
Well, I was going to ask you, Eric. Well, no, when do you want to get into the 3:00 start time?
Well, that's where I'm going. Okay. So I don't know if there's a lot to discuss because we've discussed this and kind of beat the horse to death.
We have. We're still hitting that thing, and it's in the ground.
But come on, like I get the reason that the networks want the races to start later because of ratings. But what kind of ratings are they getting when the race doesn't restart until 9 o'clock at night?
Not good. Came out today and they were bad. They were real bad.
We need to stop. When I went to the Daytona 500, I think the race started at 12:30 or 1 o'clock. I mean, this 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock start time BS that we've been doing the past couple seasons, it's just freaking ridiculous. And I think it's just because, part of it is, James, that, when NASCAR made this TV contract back in the 2000s, it was a popular sport. It was bigger than anything else. And NASCAR had the bargaining power, and now the networks do. NASCAR needs the networks.
Big money. Yep.
It used to be the other way around. The networks needed NASCAR, but now NASCAR needs the networks, and the networks are getting to dictate this, and it is
follow the money, Eric. Yep. When you want to look at why decisions are the way they are, when NASCAR had the money, they could do what they wanted. NASCAR doesn't have that anymore.
I mean, you know where it's coming from because I swear the Super Bowl used to start during the day, and now the Super Bowl doesn't start until 6:30 at night.
Yeah, which I was actually happy that it started at least at 6:30.
I know that was actually early.
I was like, if any later, I would have been in big trouble.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, when you have to take the next day off because you stayed up to watch a stupid Super Bowl, even when you don't drink, that's that's a problem.
It hurts. When you get in your mid-30s, this stuff hurts.
Yeah, exactly.
Staying the plate sucks, man.
We have been bitten by these late start times so many times in the last 3 years. When is enough? When are we going to get it out of our heads that we need to start?
We would have been better off. Yeah, we would have been better off running this race on Monday after seeing the ratings on what happened.
Except
it's just terrible.
It rained. And the best part is it rained all week last week. Of course, the only race that was really affected was the 500.
The one that matters the most.
But next weekend, when we want it to rain, it's not going to.
NASCAR could give themselves. I know NASCAR can give themselves a window here, and they just. I don't know. Yeah. I just don't know why they can't. This TV networks have to have it at such a certain time,
or at least get it somewhere that we can shift gears. I get the logistics of getting everybody in there. Yeah. But there's a lot of logistics to having people come in on Monday to put a race on too. That is really difficult. So let's make it to where we can, if we need to, and it's a 3 o'clock start, but the weather looks horrible, then shift it to noon.
Well, here's the thing. We're in a freaking pandemic, and nobody can go anywhere. Start the race at 9 a.m. People are going to watch because they're not going anywhere. Nobody's going anywhere. We're stuck in our houses watching the race. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I don't know. We've got all the flexibility in the world. Nobody's going to the track. Anyway, that horse. Sorry, horse. Taking a few more licks.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we've beat it to death, but it just continues to be a thing, and it's getting really old. Yeah, mostly sunny, high of 66 is the forecast for Sunday.
Great.
Showers likely on Friday and Friday night, though, so the trucks might get to race in some rain.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Let's see how that goes.
Yeah. So.
Yikes.
All right, so we finally get the race back going. 9:00 at night, 9:30 at night, and I think we saw the effects of the less urgency because we knew it wasn't going to rain again, and we saw the effects of losing a bunch of really competitive cars, and nothing happened.
Yeah, I mean that they just kind of single filed out, and I had a little bit of a setup going because I'm like I got to make sure I stay awake. So I had two TVs right next to each other. I had my big TV and I brought up my small TV, and I had the Xbox on going on one, nice. And I had the race going on
James,
the other.
That's why you need a Nintendo Switch, because you can you can't play NASCAR, but you can play something while you're sitting there.
Well, yeah, that's what I was doing. I was playing NASCAR and watching NASCAR all at the same time. Fantastic.
And your race was probably a lot better than the one that was on TV.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's Daytona 500, so it's still exciting. But man, it was a snoozer.
Yeah, it looked like Denny Hamlin. I mean, it was what it was. You know, you could have fast forwarded to the last 10 laps of the thing and not missed much.
You just never know.
The only thing that and the only thing that really happened was the Toyota screwed up that last pit stop, and that changed the race because it looked like Denny Hamlin had it in the bag.
Yep.
He was in control again. Like he was going to win his third straight Daytona 500. I was convinced at one point. I'm like, man, this dude just knows what to do.
Yeah.
He's just going to be there. And the Toyotas messed up their pit stop. They didn't have the strength and numbers that the Fords and the Chevys did. And it cost them.
Yeah. Toyota needs to get a couple more teams, which there was some talk this week that they're looking at, or they have some people looking at starting Toyota teams because they just don't have the numbers at these super speedways to play this strategy. And Ford and Chevy's not working with them. You know, Chevy worked with them a little bit during the race, but on pit stops they weren't. And that
cost them. Yeah, cost Denny Hamlin his chance.
So yeah, a lot of single file racing. Again, you never know what's going to happen, but we had some excitement at the end of each stage, and a little bit of excitement with pit stops. And otherwise, we ran single file a lot.
Yeah.
And we did it right down to the second half of the last lap of the race when they decided to start trying to pass coming out of turn 2 and then started pushing. And then we had the big giant wreck going into turn 3 that ultimately got the win for Michael McDowell. So, I want to say a couple things. First of all, let's talk about the wreck, James.
We got to talk about the wreck.
I know Brad was really upset. Brad Keselowski, obviously trying to win a Daytona 500. Brad's in the situation that Kyle Busch is in. It's the only big race he hasn't won. Only thing he hasn't accomplished in NASCAR right now. Wants to get that win and failed at it again. But I mean, is anybody to blame there? I mean, who is to blame?
Nope. Nobody to blame.
I mean, Joey was blocking.
Joey has to block.
McDowell was pushing, but
McDowell has to push.
You're just going into turn 3 in the Daytona 500, and you kind of know what's going to happen.
If you have to place blame on one singular portion of the whole thing, it's the block. But it's not Joey's fault to block; it's his job to block. The way this package is set, it's just the way that's just the way that it is. And what I hate about it is Brad ran those last few laps absolutely brilliantly, Eric.
Yeah.
Nobody was making any moves, and Brad showed you how to get it done.
Yep.
He took Harvick to school with 2 to go. Got Harvick out of the way cleanly, moved into second place, and you could see what he was doing. He was setting Joey up all the way from turn 1 through turn 2. Brad he put a little drag on the brake and got a massive run because he put the space he needed in between them, and damn it, he lost it again. I'm hurting for the dude.
Yeah.
Because he ran such a brilliant last couple of laps there, and just all the skills that we know he has at this track. And it's just, man, it just doesn't happen for some dudes. And I I don't know. That could have been his last run for a Daytona 500 in the Penske Deuce. And it's just sucks. It sucks. I hate it for him, man. I really do. Really do. I was hoping he'd get it done.
I don't think it's going to be his last in the Penske Deuce because I don't think he's got anywhere to go.
I don't know.
I don't see where Brad goes.
Yeah,
I think those doors closed this past season.
Maybe unless Austin Cindric gets to come up.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, maybe Brad ends up in an Eric Jones situation where now he's on the outside looking in.
I'd hope not.
I mean, I hope he doesn't end up at Richard Petty Motorsports, but you know what I mean? I
know. I just, man, I just shake my head because I feel like it was his.
Yeah.
You know? And
yeah, but Joey feels like it was his.
Well, and
Austin Dillon feels like it was his because Dillon was coming.
Yeah, and part of me, there's a little part of me that said to myself, "Damn it, Joey, you've got one of these." But that's not how it works in sports. Joey didn't do anything wrong. He wanted to hold his position and win the Daytona 500. And there's a lot of things I wish would have happened afterwards. Like I wish NASCAR would have let him run to the line.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's no reason about that.
Yeah, there's no reason not to run to the line, right?
Well,
I mean, we were fine.
There's a problem with that though, because let's look at that accident, which by the way was a horrific accident.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that too, so we can cover all of our bases here.
So Brad gets turned, Kyle Busch just drills him, and not lifting.
Cindric
and then Cindric drills Kyle Busch, not lifting, and that's why you have to throw the caution. Because until you throw that caution, anybody behind that wreck is not slowing down.
When a car gets into the catch fence, it's an automatic stoppage.
Yep. As soon as they get off the ground, man, and I think we saw it. We saw it in was it the Xfinity race where they crashed coming out of turn 4 too? You just have to throw the caution because these guys just floor it and they point it towards the finish line. Man. Yeah,
it's the 500, and it's a product of this rules package. And I know people are super excited, and everybody was like, "Wow, what a great finish!" And Eric, I know Ryan Newman survived last year,
right? And
we're thankful he did. But how many times at the end of these Daytona 500s are we gonna do this?
Well, I'll give NASCAR credit. They figured out a way. At least it's worked so far. I'm sure that it's just luck that it's worked. But the cars aren't staying on the ground. We're getting lift still, but they're staying rubber side down.
Well, we're not doing the Austin Dillon lift. Yeah.
Right. We saw Kurt Busch get in the air at Talladega last year. Car stayed right side up and landed back.
Yeah, the post Newman tweaks that they made, right?
Yeah. So, and I mean, Kozlowski got airborne, but just the back of the car got into the fence. Man, dude. That fence, I'll tell you, that thing is scary. When a car hits that, it just shreds it. Yeah,
it turns a race car traveling 200 miles an hour into a top.
But it's not really surprising because if you look at the catch fence, if you ever walked along the catch fence, that tubing is bigger than the tubing that's in the car for the roll cage. So of course it's going to be stronger than the roll cage.
It's super reinforced. I mean, that Austin Dillon wreck a few years back was as bad as it gets, and it was because that catch fence just turned him into a helicopter.
80 miles an hour to 0.
Yeah,
the way it did, and I mean, that car didn't go 100 feet when it hit the fence. It just stopped.
I know, it just spun around. Yeah, it just got up in there and spun around. That's a crazy video. If you watch some of the in-car from that thing, we go back and watch that. But
not only Eric, that, this Kozlowski one was too. If you watch Bubba's on board with the flames and everything.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
What a bad wreck.
I'll tell you. Yeah, it's again, we get these horrible wrecks at the end of these races, and we have this false sense of security that everybody's going to walk away.
Yeah, and I get a pit in my stomach when I see it. Yep. I mean, I don't know about you.
I was worried about Kyle. It took him a while to get out of the car.
I was worried about Brad too.
Yeah. Brad got out quick.
Yeah, Brad was furious.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad. I mean, the helmet throwing video is something else from him too. But yeah, I was worried about Kyle and Brad, and because Kyle didn't get out right away.
Yeah,
Kyle took a minute to get out, and I thought, Kyle, maybe his legs again or something.
His post-race interview was excellent though.
Yeah,
just like no biggie. Just in good mood and whatever. It's like, wow, that's not the Kyle I'm used to.
Well, I think he's so beaten down by this race too.
Yeah.
I think he's just used to it.
Yeah, the difference between Kyle and Brad is that Brad is always like right there. Yeah. And Kyle just isn't usually.
Yeah, Brad's always
he's in the running, but he's never really close to winning the thing.
Yeah, Brad's always in the hunt to win this race, and it's I don't know. I mean, man, I don't know. I said my piece on this wreck. I don't like it. I really don't. And I know people love this rules package, but the way this rules package is and the way the rules are in the sport, every Daytona 500 is going to be a demolition derby at the end, and whoever can survive it is going to be the one who wins these races, it seems like.
Well, I feel like the reason that we got the wreck that we got on lap 14 was because we didn't have the clash on the big track.
Yeah, it's just impatience as well, right? I mean, it was inexperience and impatience.
We didn't have that race to test where the limits are, where it doesn't
matter.
And
Larry Mack said it.
Yeah.
Larry Mack said these guys have had 1 hour.
Yep.
On the track.
And the duels don't do it because that race you're trying
Smaller
to protect
packs.
your car.
Yep, exactly. Small packs.
Well,
we had some wrecks in the duels, but nothing like that.
But you're trying to protect your car in those races, whereas in the clash you don't care. And so that's where you get to test where the limits are. And a lot of times we see a wild clash and we see a Daytona 500 that's much calmer, much better until the end when all hell breaks loose every year.
Well, and you get a guy like Chris Bell who is in a really good piece of equipment. I mean, that car looked like it was bad fast, and he just doesn't have the seat time here that some of these other guys do, and it leads to, a situation like he had on that first caution where, he probably could have done something a little bit different had he had a little bit more experience in the seat.
Right.
Versus, if that like Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, those guys aren't making that same mistake that Bell did. And again, though, Eric, I don't think it was all Bell's fault. I just think he was the wrong driver in the wrong situation.
Yep. I agree.
And that's just Daytona. That's Daytona and Talladega. That's what we got, and that's what we're gonna see. Especially with no practice.
Yeah, right. Couple of people to point out here. Obviously, Michael McDowell with the win. Austin Dillon is our points leader now in the Cup Series with a third place finish. Ryan Preece, wasn't sure if he was going to race. No charter.
Great race.
Finishes sixth. How about 8th and 9th, James?
Yeah, man.
Spire Motorsports. 2 cars in the top 10 of the Daytona 500.
They stayed. Yep. Jamie McMurray had a little bit of trouble earlier in the day, but I mean, you got Jamie McMurray 2 years since he's driven, and he's still good. Still good at these places.
Yeah.
And Corey LaJoie, that's a great run for that team.
Yep.
Great run.
Kyle Larson, first race back in a car in almost a year, finishes 10th.
Top 10. Yep. Not a lot of. Did you notice that he was very much not mentioned during the Daytona 500?
He wasn't mentioned. He wasn't in front of cameras much.
Yeah, Fox kept it very quiet, but there had a lot of, and I wonder a little bit too. There was a lot of advertising around Bubba.
Yeah.
During the 500, and I just think Fox played it safe, which I think that was probably a good decision, but it definitely stood out to me.
Yeah.
Usually when you have a driver of that caliber coming back, they would get a lot of TV time, especially when they're up front and in the hunt. And I just feel like he didn't get it, which is, that's what you're going to get.
Right.
That's what we're going to see moving forward.
We mentioned Austin Cindric. He finished 15th after being in that wreck, but Austin was good all day. He was right up front all day.
I know. And I had him in my fantasy team, and I benched him. I didn't actually go with him for the final lineup, and I should have. I was bummed about that. He had a good day.
Nice expensive last lap for Penske with all.
Yeah, heck cars. Yeah, it was, dude. Yeah.
Another one that I wanted to point out, he didn't get the finish at all, and obviously didn't run very long. But really, really was impressing me in those early 13 laps was Daniel Suarez in that Trackhouse car.
Yeah, they got something going there. He
was moving pretty good, and he was making some good moves, and unfortunately, that put him in the right position to be involved in the big wreck. So
yeah, they're going to have a decent, for what their team is. I think they might have a decent year. He's a good driver. Yeah. He is a good driver. Yep. That guy can drive.
Yep, I agree. Otherwise, I mean, I don't think anybody else really jumps out a whole lot.
Bubba stood out to me.
Bubba finishes 17th. Yeah, he was right there. He was right up front all day. Worked really well with Denny Hamlin.
Yeah.
So
to see the first race for that team.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive.
It's a great run for them. You expect them to. I mean, Eric, they've got speed in that car.
Yeah.
That showed me that car can run.
Yep.
So
that's
great to see.
I think this weekend will be a really good test because Bubba's terrible on road courses.
Yeah.
And he's driving, a Denny Hamlin car.
I want to see him at
Denny's good at road courses.
Yeah, I want to see Atlanta and tracks like that where Vegas to see where that team really is at. But I mean, that team wasn't meddling around in the mid pack. That was a contender. That was one of your. I think he was one of your 10 legit contenders in this race.
Yep. The only thing I saw maybe a little too much aggressiveness out of him.
Oh, I think he's going to struggle with that too, Eric, because he's got, he's got the equipment now, so he was making
riskier
lot
moves.
Of pressure.
He was making riskier moves than he should, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I think for him, this is similar to when he was driving for Kyle Busch in the trucks. He's got the stuff. Yep. I think he's got the stuff.
Well, and he feels like he's got to prove it too.
Well, and there's a lot of pressure on that guy, man.
That might be where the problem is, though.
A lot of people hate that guy. A lot of people love that guy. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on with Bubba outside of the race car, outside of the racetrack, and I think that's going to weigh on him a little bit, and it may cause him some added stress, for some of these races where, could be a little bit of a distraction, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, you're right. He was definitely pressing, and he wanted that stage win in stage 2 because he was trying to sneak it out of there, but I thought it was a great showing for that team. That's one of the things that you can say for a new team is when they're there, right? They stand out to you. That's a good showing, and we definitely knew the 23 was out there.
Yeah, I mean, he was a top 5 car all day.
Yep.
Certainly. Do you think if Kaz Grala could see the outside of his car and see what we saw, would he have gone back out on the track with the back end of the car on fire?
No, I don't think so.
That was something. The NASCAR officials can't step away from it for more than 3 seconds before it bursts back into flames, and they send him out. Like, come on, guys.
I know. He led 10 laps though.
Yeah.
I have to ask you this one too, really quick. Chase Briscoe. Okay, not a great day. He blew that tire and it ripped the fender off, and that was pretty much the end of Chase's day.
Yep.
The Panda Express stop in between the rain delay, playing with fire a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't think I would have made that stop.
If you're gonna be in a car for 3 hours, I don't know if Panda Express is the right place to stop. That killed me, man, when I saw that. That was he got some good publicity for that little stunt.
Yeah, so let me see if I can find it real quick here.
And his wife was the one who posted it, Marissa Briscoe.
Okay.
So yeah, they were on ESPN. I saw that, and I saw some other people made that joke that I just made. But man, he was definitely that's a dicey food decision. But I guess he had a 6-hour rain delay to deal with it.
So Adam Stern tweets. So Ross Chastain made a McDonald's stop as well. And Tyler Reddick stopped at Cheddar's Kitchen. And Adam Stern tweets that McDonald's earned about $52,000 in social media value from Ross Chastain's rain delay visit.
Well, there you go.
Panda Express got around $40,000 in value from Chase Briscoe's, and Cheddar's Kitchen got about $20,000 from Tyler Reddick's visit. So
that Panda Express one, I think, has got to be a little bit more than that at this point. That thing caught fire.
Yeah.
I'm making it. There's a couple of puns there.
Right.
I'm just gonna let it go.
Right.
I'm just gonna let it go.
Right. Yeah, we have a Panda Express not too far from us here, and
yeah, you do. Yeah,
we've eaten at it a few times, and the food's not bad, but yeah, you probably would not want to run 500 miles or 490 miles after eating it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's just dangerous. That's all. That's all we're saying.
Yeah. I mean, we almost could have a Tony Stewart incident. So.
Well, I mean, he's driving the 14.
He is.
So
he is. Yep. Yeah. It's not like that car's not been crapped in before. Anyway.
There it is. I just put it right out there.
There it is. All right. I love the Tony Stewart story around Watkins Glen that nobody will say what happened. Everybody just beats around the bush on it.
We all know what happened. It's okay. It's okay. I think he's actually come out and said it once.
I think I'd
have to find it.
Yeah. But
I mean, God, that was 16 years ago now or whatever. So yeah, whatever.
Right. Let's see here. We had 22 lead changes among 13 drivers in this race. Certainly not a record, but it shows a little bit more excitement than what I think we actually saw on the track. 7 cautions for 40 laps in this one. So yeah.
And one big rain delay.
And Michael McDowell in victory lane. So very cool.
Yeah, I mean, very, very cool.
It's always fun to see a first-time winner. It's always fun to see somebody who, McDowell's been through a lot. He deserves it. Like I said, we get fluke victories and stuff, and I don't consider this a fluke victory by any means. He's been there in the running. He's been up front in all these super speedway races. Not a surprise. Just like I said, it's not supposed to happen. but pretty awesome that it did.
This is a life changer for Michael McDowell. He doesn't have to win another race in his rest of his career. But Eric, he was the guy who crashed for the entirety of his 14 Cup seasons.
Yep.
And now he's a Daytona 500. Now he's forever known as Daytona 500 champion, Michael McDowell.
Yep.
And that's just not enough said. I mean, enough said. That's what you want. Well, that's awesome.
You know, friend of the show, listener Ben, pointed out to us that he thinks that that Front Row Motorsports has something going this year. And I'll tell you what, a Daytona 500 victory will go a long ways to helping a struggling organization. So
yeah, that was a great point by Ben because like I said earlier, looking at McDowell's average finish last year, I mean, it was 4 spots better than what he's ever done. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, they might have a little something here.
Yep. This will definitely give them some momentum.
Well, they're in the playoffs, and you and I are both wrong in our predictions already.
Yeah, so exactly. Completely killed.
He's got a playoff spot. He's good at road course. I mean, Eric, looking at the playoff schedule, we've got the Roval, we've got Talladega. Why not Michael McDowell sneaking up to maybe the top 10 by the time this whole thing's said and done? I mean, he could. Now that right there is a long shot.
Yeah.
But regardless, I mean, they've got all season to prepare for 10 races now, which is great for them.
So the question that I have is, okay, so you're Front Row Motorsports. Previous to this, this is the last year with this car. You're going to a new car next year that's supposed to make everybody a lot more even. Where are your resources going before the Daytona 500? Are they going to this car or are they going to the new car? And now that you've won the Daytona 500, when other people are putting resources towards next year's car, do you now shift gears and put all your resources in this car?
Well, I think what you do here, Eric, is you've got the two Front Row teams. You put everything with the current gen car to the 34 and everything else. I mean, the what is it, 36 or the 38?
Yeah.
The 38 with the sauce, Anthony Alfredo. Unfortunately for Anthony Alfredo, I think you take resources away there and everything goes to that 34 car.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then you try to you basically operate as a one car team with a satellite, and then you've got your then you start planning for next year. I think you just gotta. But you know what though, Eric? They've got extra money in the bank now.
Yeah, they do.
A little bit of spending cash. A couple $1 million for winning the Daytona 500. So
can't hurt.
For that team, it goes a long way. Yeah. That money goes a long way.
Yeah, you're gonna see a lot more positive from that than you would if like JGR got the win. So
for sure,
you won't notice that extra money flowing into JGR, but you'll notice it flowing into Front Row.
Oh hell yeah, you will. Yep.
I mean, this is the type of thing like Hendrick winning at Martinsville, back in the day with Jeff Woodine, a race away from being gone. I mean, Front Row is not at that point, but this could be a boost to make them a top-notch team.
So. Yep. Yeah. So this is Front Row's second career win. They've got that David Reagan win.
Yep.
Also at Talladega a few years back. So
that one probably did not pay this much.
No, it did not. But I mean, got two.
I think they're strong. They're a stronger organization now than they were then too. So this is going to go a longer way.
Well, and when you have people when we can actually do stuff in person again and can start visiting these shops, you've got a Daytona 500 trophy to show off, which is, I mean, how cool is that, man?
That's
mean,
awesome.
it's awesome. It's great for those guys.
Totally awesome. All right, so let's talk some news. There's not a whole lot going on this week. Las Vegas Motor Speedway announces that they're expecting to have limited fans. I don't really know how many fans we're going to have yet, but it looks like there will be people in the seats at Vegas. So that's cool.
It is the Wild West out in Vegas, baby.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I will say that, the early shots from the stands at Daytona before the rain, I know they were only supposed to be 30,000 or whatever there, but they were pretty tight.
It stressed you out? It stressed you out a little bit?
It stressed me out a little bit.
I saw a lot of selfies with people side by side. That stressed me out. I mean,
I have family in Florida, so I know how Florida is viewing COVID. But yeah, it stressed me out a little bit. But hey, I'm not there, so I don't care.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
We didn't. There was plenty of social distancing after the rain. We'll just say that.
There certainly was. Yes.
Not a lot of people.
Right.
And then sad news we found out this week. Former ESPN announcer, personally, in my opinion, best in the business, Bob Jenkins.
He's up there. He's right there.
Scaling back some of his work this year as he is battling brain cancer, which is
it
awful,
sucks, man. Yeah, Bob Jenkins has, Eric, I mean, I know we've talked about this in the past a handful of times, but you can close your eyes if you've been watching NASCAR long enough and you can hear Bob Jenkins' voice.
Yep. Bob Jenkins is what I judge every NASCAR broadcaster.
Barney Hall, Bob Jenkins. Yeah. Those are the Mike. I throw Mike Joy in there.
Mike Joy is there now. He was. Yeah. Mike Joy's always been good. But
Bob Jenkins and Barney Hall. Those guys were. They're two of the guys in their own category.
There was not a better booth than Bob Jenkins, Benny Parsons, and Ned Jarrett.
That's damn. Yeah,
that was
damn
the booth,
right,
man.
Yeah.
I mean,
yep.
Ken Squire's excellent. Mike Joy's
Ken was great,
but they're not those three. Those three were just great.
Yep. Yeah, I hate this for Bob, but praying for him. We can. Hey, we've seen bigger comebacks.
Yeah,
this guy can do it.
Yep,
Bob can do it.
For those who don't know, he's been doing PA at Indianapolis Motor Speedway for several years, pretty much since he retired. So, you could still hear his voice there for the Indy 500 and any on-track stuff going on at Indy. So that was. I could always hear him in the background, and you hear that voice, and it's like, oh, that's Bob Jenkins.
Yeah, yeah. And a mentor, I saw Marty Smith was a lot of the people in the NASCAR realm just tweeting out and saying many kind things about Bob Jenkins and how he's helped them along in their career. Marty being one of them. We love Marty and McGee, and I'm sure he's touched a lot of people's lives in the garage area on the media side.
Yeah. All right. With that, we go this weekend. We take a nice long trip from Daytona to Daytona for the Daytona Road Course.
Speed Weeks. We'll just call it Speed Weeks.
Yeah, exactly. It can still be Speed Weeks. That's right. We did. Denny Hamlin broke some news this week that we're getting some turtles.
We are getting the turtles.
Not surprising there. They're making some adjustments to the bus stop on the backstretch, putting some turtles in, keep the cars out of the dirt. I think that sucks. I like them being in the dirt. I liked that.
I think NASCAR wants to save the dirt for Bristol.
Yeah, I do too, and it's probably the right decision. But I like seeing these guys thrown for a loop. So
yeah,
I'm disappointed. But the turtles can make things exciting too. So
yeah, they can.
So with that, we are road course picking this week, James, and because hold on, let me pull up the numbers. I didn't pull up the numbers. James got his butt kicked this week on picks.
Well, wait till we talk about fantasy here.
Yeah, I know. I'm just gonna skip over fantasy. So really, James didn't get his butt kicked too bad because he really only had one pick that went awry, and it's not his fault because it was a great pick. So basically I am ahead of James 87-42 on points. And the big swing was, James picked Ryan Blaney for the Cup race. I picked Kyle Busch, and Blaney only got 7 points. Kyle got 25.
Blaney hurt me in so many ways.
And then one that really that solidified it for me was John Hunter Nemechek in the Truck Series. He got 47 points. Matt Crafton for James got 22. So
Crafton got wadded up on the last lap, and all I kept thinking was, "Dang it, there goes my points."
Well,
I had some points coming.
I was struggling.
You had me beat.
I was struggling in the Xfinity race because I was cheering for Noah Gragson because I like Gragson, and I know he's good at those super speedways, but I didn't want him to win. I didn't want him to beat Haley because I didn't want James to get the points.
I know, and I was gonna. What's funny is in my head I was gonna take Austin Cindric for the Xfinity race, and I thought, no, I'm gonna take Gragson again, and I screwed myself. I had Cindric for my fantasy lineup and everything. I just benched him all the way across the board. What a loser I am.
Yeah, I don't know what you're thinking.
Oh, it's terrible.
So since you lost last week, James, you get to get first pick again this week. So that's the advantage you get. And so I think the toughest pick is the trucks. I think the other two are pretty easy picks. There's a couple guys that are pretty good at both of those. I think I'm going to have an easy pick, even picking second. But who's your pick for the trucks, James?
I'm going to go. I'm going to go
Friday night and possibly in the rain.
Possibly in the rain, which could shake things up.
Yeah.
I'll take defending road course winner at Daytona, Sheldon Creed.
Nice.
Yes, I will take Sheldon Creed.
That is a good pick. I am going to go with John Hunter Nemechek, just based on past experience in road courses.
Yeah, he's going to be a problem this year, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
So stick with that pick. You did win all last week. Xfinity Series. This one should be pretty easy, right? Who are you picking?
I am not going to let myself do this to myself again. I will take Austin Cindric this time. I do not want to get my butt kicked on the Xfinity Series again. So
yeah,
give me Cindric.
I'm gonna take the next logical choice then, and I'm gonna go with AJ Allmendinger.
Yeah, man. I was wondering if you were gonna go there because I was eyeballing him too.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna go.
It was tough, but I listened to an interview today, and AJ said, everybody's calling him to win this race, but he reminded everybody that Cindric won last year. And
Cindric's a beast at the road course.
Cindric would have been my first pick, but I knew you were going to take him.
Yeah, I had AJ. I was eyeballing AJ though. I was eyeballing him.
I probably know who you're going to pick for Cup as well. Who's your pick for the Cup Series?
Well, I was going to say Chase.
Oh, you're going to make it difficult on me. I'm going to have to choose.
Yeah, I just boy, and I'm thinking about this stupid clash too. I won't take Chase. He's got to lose one of these eventually. So give me Denny Hamlin.
Okay.
Give me Denny Hamlin.
Well, I am not. We're both idiots because neither of us are going to take Chase.
We're terrible. Yeah, this is not good.
I'm not going to take Chase either because the reason I'm not going to take Chase, James, is because if we look back at the Clash, which I know we probably shouldn't get too caught up in the Clash, but there's also some trends leading into that make this a good choice too. So if you look back to the Clash, there was one driver that made two big mistakes. One, he drove through the chicane under caution, which I think is ridiculous that it was a penalty, but hey, it's a penalty. And then he spun himself out in the dirt. Well, the dirt's gone, and he ain't making a chicane mistake again. Martin Truex Jr., man.
Yeah, there you go. I like that pick.
So
he was good. He was bad.
He would have won. He was. There would not have been a battle. It wouldn't have been Denny Hamlin and Ryan Blaney going into that last turn if Truex wouldn't have wrecked.
Yeah, Chase and Blaney, right?
Yeah, Chase. Yeah, sorry, Chase and Blaney.
Yeah, no, yeah, I like Denny Hamlin's speed. I really liked in the Clash.
Yeah,
but Truex was really good too. Well, but yeah, we're both gonna lose to Chase Elliott.
Well, and you have to consider too. We saw a lot of things in the Clash that we're not going to see in this race. The pit strategy because of where the cautions fell and everything. You're just not going to see that stuff in this race. So it'll be different. It'll be different than what we saw in the Clash. So. Yeah, but I'm pretty happy with my choices. I think you got some good picks there too. I think it's gonna be close this week.
I think I went mostly chalk except for the Cup race. I mean, I think I took the best two in the lower series as well.
I think you're right.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. I got a long way to go. I got a lot of work to do to catch up to you now.
Yep. So I'm gonna take off my headset, walk across the room, go to the bathroom or something while you talk about Fantasy League because I don't want to hear it.
We'll keep it quick. I do want to say before we get started on the Fantasy League though, really quick. Thank you. We have a really big league this year. So I know you and I did a little bit of a social media push last week.
No, you did a social media push and I clicked the retweet button.
Well, that's fine. But no, thank you to everybody who came out and joined our league. Yeah. We've got 13 that earned points. So we've got two guys. I'm going to give you guys Jay Wint and Justin 713. I'll give you guys one more race if you get your picks in. If you don't score any points this week, I'll boot you. But other than that, we've got 13 guys. Yeah, 13 guys in this league. Eric, you didn't finish last. The points got adjusted. So Eric finished 12th. I finished 8th.
I was done on lap 14.
Yeah.
God.
Our winner, our points leader, though, the Daytona 500 champion, is my buddy Ian, Mr. Consistency. He scored 204, and all he said was, "I picked the favorites." So I don't know what that means, but
I don't know. I thought I picked a lot of favorites, and they all ended up wrecked and sitting on the bottom of turn 3.
We got some names in here, and I think I know who this guy is. Shut Up Roger.
Oh, nice.
We got Shut Up Roger in the league.
Nice.
You know who you are. I don't know if he actually listens to the podcast or not, but we know Roger.
Yeah.
And then our buddy Freight Train and Ranger, they're right next to each other, 6th and 7th. So yeah, we got a couple of good ones in here. Green Eggs and Hamlin. That's a new addition to the league.
I love that name.
Yeah,
I have not even looked at who's in the Fantasy League yet, so let me go.
Yeah, we got Rusty W number 2. We got Raging Redneck Racing, and then Fast to the Grass is another one who finished 2nd at the 500.
Nice.
We had 4 guys who were really nipping at it for the win there. With Mr. Consistency, but Mr. Consistency is consistent and gets the win.
That's awesome. Green Eggs and Hamlin. That is the best name right there.
That's really good. Yeah, that's really good.
I love that. That's good.
Really
stuff.
Creative. Nice work.
Yep. Good stuff. All right. Anything we missed? We get it all?
I think
shout outs. We didn't do shout outs.
Well, I was gonna say we can use our. I was gonna use my shout out time. You and I both watched the Earnhardt doc on ESPN.
Yeah, you're going the same way I was going. So,
dude, well, I figured we're both gonna have it. So let's talk about it real quick. How good was that piece?
So I'll tell you what I can do the Earnhardt stuff all day long. That I'm a journalist. I'm eat that type of stuff up. I mean, obviously it was a really sad thing, but I could read about it all day long. I even James, I downloaded the NASCAR report and read through half of that last night.
Yeah, the 380 pages of it.
Yeah. Which I'd read before, but I flipped through it again last night. I mean, just Jordan Bianchi had a great piece on The Athletic. I've not read through the 3-part Ryan McGee series yet on ESPN. But did watch
four-parter.
Okay.
Yeah. He did a 4th part. That was just as good as the documentary, I think.
I watched the documentary. I listened to the podcast. I listened to the clips from Marty and McGee. Thanks to James for sending me both of those. Otherwise, I'd never found them.
He was on. So if anybody wants to listen to those, it was ESPN Daily and then the Marty and McGee podcast feeds. There's 2 different Ryan McGee interviews on there talking about Dale and a little bit about the doc. Some of it crosses over, obviously, but still, the doc is so good.
I would recommend, I think, watching the documentary before you listen to
I think so.
The ESPN
I was too
interview with
excited.
McGee, because it did kind of ruin some parts of the documentary because I'd already heard them, and I'm sitting there going, did I hear that already? I think I heard that already. And
well, and if you're new, so if you're listening to our podcast and you're new to NASCAR, for example, this is a great history lesson too. I mean, the whole thing is just Eric, we forget, you and I forget, now that Dale's been gone 20 years this week, tomorrow he's been gone 20 years. Jimmy Johnson raced his entire Cup career in that span. Never raced against Dale. Started at the end of 2001 and retired last year. It's just crazy when you think about it.
The only driver in the Daytona 500 this year that was in the Daytona 500 in 2001 was Kurt Busch.
Yep. That's crazy, isn't it? Isn't that nuts?
Absolutely crazy.
I mean, that's how much
a generation has gone by since Earnhardt died.
Yeah, and his shadow still looms over the sport, and not to give that. I don't think we want to give too much of the doc away. I think we want people to go and watch that. Go to ESPN Plus or wherever you can find it on ESPN. I know they're doing a lot of replays on it, but
I don't think you need an ESPN Plus subscription to watch it either.
No, I don't think so. But
I do have one, but I did not think I had to log in to see it.
It's just a great. It takes a different spin on it because it comes at you from the safety aspect. It goes into everything beforehand.
Well, I mean, it starts with Ryan Newman. It starts with a Newman.
It does.
Crash.
Starts with Newman. Yep.
So, and I enjoyed Bianchi's piece too, because Jordan went through and talked to a lot of the media members that were there at the time.
It was another great take, right? It was
and it fascinated me because I've been, involved in a way in the NASCAR media for the last 5 years or so. So to me, these guys have been there forever that are there now, but they weren't. I mean, a lot of them weren't there back then, and the ones that were in completely different roles. Even like, Marty and McGee were both in completely different roles back then. They were nobodies at the time. When
they were young up and comers still.
Yeah, I mean, now they could get anywhere and get anybody in the series, but McGee couldn't get interviews with Earnhardt, or Marty couldn't. So, I mean, it was it was just an interesting take, and it's crazy for me to think that it was 20 years ago. It doesn't seem like it, but at the same time, it seems like it was so long ago, James. I mean, I remember that day. I had to. I planned to watch the races. I do the 500 every year. Wanted to watch it, and back then, you watched races live back then. If you recorded them, you recorded them on a VHS tape, and you hoped that you recorded the whole thing, and you had to wait till the race was over to start watching it. And so I was watching it live, and my mom had to go. I had to take my mom somewhere like an hour away, and so I left in the middle of the race, and I was listening to it on the radio, and the big wreck with Tony Stewart and everything happened on my way home, and I got home just as they were getting ready to go back to green for the last 21 laps or whatever. So I saw the end of the race live.
Me too. Yep, me too. I was a kid. I couldn't drive. I remember that. I wasn't even I was still in 8th grade.
Yeah,
I wasn't even a freshman.
You're young, and I was driving, man.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And, I remember,
remember where it was.
I was playing NASCAR, whatever, one of the games on my computer when the news report came on and they announced that he'd passed away. And Just, I mean, it was, and you know, when you watch that wreck, you knew the wreck didn't seem bad, but you knew from everything that happened afterwards that it wasn't good.
Yeah.
And so it was surprising, but not when the announcement was made. And I mean, it again, just, you know, read some of the pieces. There's all kinds of stuff. There's probably gonna be more coming out.
Yeah. I think one of the most haunting things for me, I'd like to, you know, I guess one more nugget for people to, I guess, entice you. I don't know if this does or not. But during one of the podcasts, and forgive me, I can't remember which one, Eric. It might have been on Marty and McGee. Brian McGee talked about that when Newman had his accident last year, it was him and he said 2 or 3 other reporters had the same feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he hasn't had that feeling since the 2000s when we lost Kenny Irwin and Tony Roper and Adam Petty.
Yeah.
He said and at that time it was commonplace for him to have that feeling, and he almost quit motorsports because of what happened. And he said when Newman had that accident, he said all these reporters didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
They were looking at him like, what do? We don't know what to do. And unfortunately Ryan knew. At that time, he just kind of the instincts crept back into his body of you know, what happened with Dale.
Yep.
And it's you know, it's crazy that nobody's died in the top 3 series since then.
Yeah,
and it's just and that's the doc. I mean, that, and it goes into why.
That's the thing is, you guys that have been in the sport and have been here since, you know, before or since after Earnhardt passed away, you know, there was a period we went through where every wreck
that year was terrible.
Every wreck was potential. Yeah, there's a great documentary on YouTube that you can find called 3 Before February, that goes through the Tony Roper, Kenny Irwin, and Adam Petty deaths, and you know, all the warning signs leading up to Earnhardt's death. You know, we lost Neil
vascular skull fracture, right?
Yep, we lost Neil Bonnet. It turns out that same injury was what you know, almost killed Ernie Irvin.
Ernie was the lucky one.
Freaking lucky he was to have you know, an great ER doc at the track that could save his life. You know.
Yeah, Ernie talks about that in his book.
Yeah.
How close he really was to death.
But I mean,
Ernie was the lucky one.
Clifford Allison, you know, Neil Bonnet, Rodney Orr, all these deaths, the same injury that we didn't at the time. They always reported it was head injuries. They died from head injuries.
Yeah.
Well, nobody realized it was the same head injury.
And it's so haunting, Eric, to know that. I'm trying not to give too much of the doc away, but the Hans devices that are such commonplace now in NASCAR, that they were all sitting in a warehouse since 1991 and could have saved all of these drivers.
Yep.
I mean, I remember that year 2000. I remember where I was when Kenny and Adam died.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing the same exact thing because they were in New Hampshire, and I was in my driveway playing basketball both times. And my mom came out and told me, like, hey, Kenny Irwin died. And then a little bit later, it was Adam Petty. You know, and it was just like, wow, I just couldn't believe it. Even as a kid, you know, it's impressionable on you that happened. And then when it happened to Dale, it was just like shocking, completely shocking.
That was when you knew things were going to change, and they did. And you know, we've come a long ways, and you know, McGee
saved a lot of lives.
McGee pointed out that there's been, you know, people. I think it was McGee, it was Marty or McGee. I can't remember which one said it. That, you know, there were people have said over the years, is NASCAR too safe? It's too safe. And those people that have said that haven't said that since last February.
Nope.
Because we
got a reality check, boy.
We got a glimpse that it, you know, Newman talked about it this week. You know, he's got that car in his shed. He's got the helmet. He says, if you looked at that helmet and you look at that car, he shouldn't be here. And
he says also, you know, if I was racing with the 90s technology or whatever, I wouldn't be here. And he said, I'm only here by millimeters as it is.
Yep.
Which is just, I mean, man, so many great nuggets. I really, if you're listening to us on this podcast, do yourself the favor and just go and consume this stuff, because it's a great education. And probably, Eric, you know, this is probably the biggest moment in the history of the sport.
Yeah.
Biggest thing that's ever happened in the history of the sport.
By far. It's not even close.
It was worldwide news.
Yep.
I mean, it was worldwide news when he passed.
He was 7-time champion. You know, one of the winningest
greatest
drivers
personality.
in NASCAR, greatest personality. I mean, he was the sport. He was the sport. And you know, I mean, it changed NASCAR. There are We lost a lot of fans when he died.
Changed auto racing.
Yeah.
Changed a lot. And Eric, guys like him, when they pass away, there's not that many of them, but they pass away before it's their time. And Dale had a lasting legacy with this safety thing. And
that's the funny thing, though, is it wasn't before his time. That's the thing with Dale. Again, I don't want to give away any of this stuff or too much of this stuff, but Dale was like, he was doing interviews leading up to the 500 about how he was finally happy.
He's haunting. It's completely haunting.
I feel so bad for him in that his dreams did not come through, because that he wanted Dale Earnhardt Incorporated to be for Junior. He wanted to run Dale Earnhardt Incorporated afterwards. And when he passed away, that all went to hell, of course. And we all know the story. If you don't, do some research on it. So it's sad that his vision didn't get to live out. But yeah, the guy was finally satisfied with where he was. And yeah, like you said, it's haunting. It's just
completely haunting. And guys like that should live into their, you want them to live into their 80s. And, I hadn't felt that in a while. And then Kobe passed away last year. Right. And that's another person who's just way too young. And it's just, man.
So I have a question for you, and I don't mean for this to take, a 20-minute conversation afterwards like we ought to do.
Okay.
But so Dale Earnhardt, what's his biggest legacy? What is the bigger legacy for Dale Earnhardt? Is it the 7 champions? Is it all the wins? Is it the period of holding NASCAR on his shoulders and bringing NASCAR to where it went? Or is it after his death and all the safety enhancements that came as a result?
Yeah,
what's the bigger legacy?
Yeah, I think I texted you this. It's the safety.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think because
Eric, it's 20 years how many later
lives
now.
He saved so many lives.
Yeah.
His death prevented
his death made it possible for the Daytona 500 winner this year to win the Daytona 500.
Yeah.
Because Michael McDowell would not have survived that wreck at Texas.
Eric, he didn't change the course of NASCAR history. He changed the course of auto racing history.
Yeah.
With his death. And that's massive. That's massive.
Yep.
It's, he, as great as he was, and it all plays a role. It's all one thing, but the biggest thing of Dale Earnhardt, when you think of Dale Earnhardt, you should think of safety first, right after that mustache of his.
Yep.
You think of safety first.
That Cheshire grin is what everybody is saying. That grin, man.
I love when every once in a while you'll see Junior do it, or Jeffrey Earnhardt has it a little bit too, and Kerry.
Well, and you hear,
but yeah, those are Earnhardts.
You heard Marty McGee talk about. I think Marty was the one talking about it. That whole come and grab you by the back of the neck thing, and you just Earnhardt.
Yeah.
I never witnessed it. I never had it happen to me with but Earnhardt to me is that would be he's that type of guy. He's that grab you by the neck guy.
That's
hurt your neck a little bit, Yeah.
Yep. My dad's that same type of guy. Hasn't seen you in 10 years and comes up and just rips on you and grabs you around the neck, and that's the kind of that's what it reminds me of. Those hard dudes.
I am bummed I never got to meet Earnhardt.
Me too, man.
Had an opportunity once to go stand in line at one of the autograph sessions and meet him, and passed up on it because I didn't want to stand in line forever. And wish I'd have done it. I was not an Earnhardt fan for most of his career. I was an Earnhardt fan towards the end.
I wasn't either. Yeah. Glad I got to see him race.
Yep.
Got to see him race.
Yep. Earnhardt to me became like Jimmy Johnson. I began to appreciate him towards the end of his career. When he won that race at Talladega, his last win in 2000. I was cheering for him at that point, and I still stand by. We had some great champions in the years following, and Earnhardt was not a young pup anymore. But I think Earnhardt may have been a contender for the 2001 championship, and who knows what could have happened.
Who knows what could have happened? Yep. So. He was coming for it. He wasn't messing around. Yep. Yeah.
But it was weird to see Earnhardt on defense for the first time in his career at that Daytona 500. You'd never seen it before.
Yep. That's what that's why I always come back to. That's another haunting piece of this, is he was driving uncharacteristically not Earnhardt.
And Mike Joyce says in Bianchi's article that no, he wasn't. He was trying to win that race. But I'll tell you what, Junior, Steve Park, Michael Waltrip, they've all talked about how they had to sit down before that race, and that was the plan.
They had a plan.
So I don't buy that. I think Earnhardt was defending.
I think he was as well. He didn't want those cars to get up to Junior and Michael. He wanted those two to fight it out.
Yep, I agree.
Because Dale had his 500. He's done it all. He had done it all. 34 wins at Daytona. He had them.
I do hope that NASCAR's been re-releasing old Daytona 500s, and they pretty much have every Daytona 500 around that one released.
Yeah.
And I would like to see them release that one because there are some videos on YouTube, but they're really low quality. That was a hell of a race, man. I mean, obviously the ending sucked, but the ending was actually great. Aside from
Tony Stewart wreck was unbelievable.
Well, and there were more lead changes in that one than had ever been in the 500 before. That aero package was so good. I mean, I still argue that was the best aero package NASCAR ever had.
Yeah, those years around 2000s. Yeah,
no yellow line rules. They're going right down to the grass, blocking and passing. It's good stuff. Go watch that race.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah, let's do it. Yep.
So, all right. With that, James, if people want to talk to you about Earnhardt or anything else, where can they do that on social media?
At James Cush on Twitter.
You can find me at TSuperspeedway on Twitter. You can find the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/TheSuperspeedway. Our website is thesuperspeedway.com. You can find old episodes of the podcast, articles from past races, photos from races. You can find the show notes with links to all the articles we discuss in the podcast, and much more. So check that out, thesuperspeedway.com. And you can find the podcast some new places, guys. We are moving up in the world. So you can find us, as always, on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and SoundCloud. You can also find us on Spotify and Stitcher now as well. Although last I checked, Stitcher wasn't working right. The show was there, but the episodes weren't. So I got.
I heard Google was. I heard Google was coming a day late too.
Yeah, I know Google was behind because I was trying.
Hopefully it'll catch up though.
I changed the way I share it on social media, trying to put some links out there and make it a little easier for people. It seems to be working with the numbers. So.
Yeah, awesome.
That's good.
That's great.
So yeah, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, wherever you heard us today, we hope you subscribe and continue to listen. And if you want to become a part of the show, help us out, help us get to the track someday when COVID is over and we can actually go to the track again. You can do that at patreon.com/thesuperspeedway. Sign up to become a patron. There's a couple different tiers there that you can do. I probably should go back and look and see if anybody signed up because previously we had one. And we really appreciate that one. He's very much appreciated. He knows he's appreciated. But hopefully there's some more. That'd be kind of cool. But I haven't seen. So, but no pressure. We just enjoy doing this. We have fun doing it. I'm not begging you guys for money. We'll do what we can with what we got. So until then, we'll be back next week to discuss the Daytona Road Course, break it all down, and preview whatever the next race is. What is it? Atlanta? Did we go to Atlanta? No, Homestead.
Go to it. Yeah. Yep, Homestead. We've got the Florida swing right now.
Yep, still in Florida, the land of no COVID. So we'll be back next week to discuss that and see how bad James loses in the picks next week. So
thank you. Yes,
and how bad I do in fantasy. So with that, guys, we'll be back next week. Until then, let's go racing. It's bedtime anyway. What are you guys on your tablet for? Past 8. And it's bedtime in 1 minute.
There's your Easter egg right there.
Yeah, right.
What are you doing on that tablet?
Oh, you giving me a hug? All right. See ya.